Let's take a look at the fastest way to get through this ACT math question that deals with factoring, and in this case, imaginary numbers. So we can see here that we've got our given expression, 36x squared plus 64, and we need to figure out the factored form of this. Now I'm going to shortcut this a little bit here, and I want to pay attention to what my last term does for me. And in this case, we've got a great big trap coming in here because we're used to recognizing this as a difference of a square. However, -8 times a +8 is going to give us a -64. And in this case, we need a +64. So I have to eliminate that right away. Now, another thing that I want to remind you of, and this is so helpful in terms of our rules of factoring, is every single time we only have two terms in our end result, we must have opposite signs inside our parentheses. Because if we have like terms inside our parentheses, we are always going to end up with a middle term. So in this case, I'm going to quickly get rid of F and G as well, because those would give me a middle term, and I'm choosing answer choice J. All right, so let's take a closer look at what happens when we work on foiling this through. So if I come through and FOIL out my first terms, that's going to be 6x times 6x, and that gives me my 36x squared. That checks. I like that. Working on my outside, I'm going to have a 6x times a +8i, and that's going to give me a +48i. Working on my inside term, I get my 6x times a -8i, and that gives me a -48i. I can then recognize that these two things are going to cancel. And here's where our imaginary numbers really come into play. We have a -8i times a +8i in our last terms. That gives us a -64i squared. We need to remember, in terms of imaginary numbers, I squared is the equivalent of -1 because I, again, is the square root of -1. So when I come in and substitute for my I squared, that -1, I'm going to multiply and end up with that +64 that we're looking for. Hopefully that's a good refresher for you on your imaginary numbers and shortcuts on your factoring and foiling.